تماشای این برنامه به کارآفرینان، مهاجران و سایر افراد بلندپرواز توصیه نمی شود.
Well, hello friends. Welcome to another episode of North of 60. My name is Hushang Lutfi and you're watching and listening to another episode of Studio 724 with a brand new guest. Just like our previous episodes, today we have a very special guest, someone with a unique and fascinating story from the borders of Canada. As immigrants or travelers, the first person we encounter is usually the border officer. These officers can sometimes be intimidating or sometimes just an ordinary official, and in some cases, if you are lucky, they can be friendly. But as immigrants, we have the power to influence what kind of behaviors are we going to expose to. With that introduction, probably you can guess who is my next guest in this episode. My guest is actually having 32 years of experience in CBSA, Canada Border Service Agency, and he's actually currently retired and a member of Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultants of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Sangjeev. Sangjeev, welcome to my episode.
Thanks, Hushang. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. So tell us a little bit about your journey and why Canada first?
Why not Canada is my answer to that. Canada, I think we are very lucky to live in one of the best countries in the world with all the human rights, privileges that we encounter and freedoms and that come along with it. A great, quality of life. And so I think Canada is probably a choice destination for many people in the world. And we welcome, hundreds and thousands of new immigrants and visitors to this wonderful country on a yearly basis.
Nice. So, do you want to share some facts about your own life? How many years have you been in Canada? If you're married, if you have children, how is your personal life? Do you enjoy it? How do you enjoy it so far?
Yeah, by all means, yeah. Thankfully, I'm married, have two beautiful daughters. They're all grown up now. And
how old are they?
They're 21. I've got twin daughters. They're 21.
They're twins?
Yes.
You have twins?
Right. That's right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so they are, in university, postgraduate education, so they're very well set in their life and in their career paths. I myself was an immigrant to Canada. I was 15 years of age when I came to Canada, so been in Canada for almost 43 years.
Wow.
So grew up in Canada, so Canada's home. Did my schooling here from high school to university, and then my career with the Canadian government for over 32 years, like you mentioned. Mostly in the immigration and border services field.
What made you to start with CBSA? Was it just happening? Like one day you start up or get up early in the morning saying that I'm going to be a CBSA officer from today, or?
Yeah, something like that. Definitely my journey was a little bit unusual. I went to university, pursue a degree in sciences, in biochemistry, graduated from that, and looking for a summer job as most kids in Canada do, to make some money during the summer times. And at that time, before CBSA, the Department of Immigration, they were looking for summer officers to help with the tourist season at Niagara Falls and at the port of entry, land border port of entry. So they always hire students, and they still do. The government still supplement their staffing numbers during the summer with the students, providing them job opportunities. So I started off as a student at the port of entry in Niagara Falls and Rainbow Bridge, welcoming tourists from all across the globe. and then just fell in love with the profession.
Really?
Just saw opportunities. I'm a traveler at heart, so I love traveling. So I saw myself that maybe this was a route for me to fulfill that dream of mine and enjoy what I'm doing, meeting people, as well as in an effort to possibly travel the globe, and which is what I was able to accomplish, during my career.
Interesting. Were you a grumpy officer?
I wouldn't call myself a grumpy officer. I don't think we have too many grumpy officers. We all have, good and bad days. All of us do. Whether you're behind a fast food counter, or you're behind a kiosk or a desk. I think people have good and bad days, but I think most of us, when we show up to work, we go there with professionalism and want to do a good job.
I see. So tell me something. Did you serve 32 years, you said, for CBSA? And back in the day, it was not called CBSA. It was called Immigration Department? Or?
So the department itself has gone through a number of different changes over the years with every new government, with every new, over the 32-year period that I was with the federal government. When I first started, it used to be called Employment and Immigration Canada. Then it became Citizenship and Immigration Canada.
Right,
CIC.
Yes.
Yeah. So it has gone through a number of different changes. I happened to be, during my career, I was on the enforcement side of immigration.
Wow, you have enforced people.
Yeah, so, I was dealing with investigations and with detentions and removals. So on the enforcement side, when CBSA was formed in response to certain global events, at that point, the enforcement branch of Immigration Canada got transferred to CBSA, fell under the purview of CBSA, including all the port of entry operations. So because I was in enforcement, so by default, I became a CBSA officer at that time. And, and finished my career as a CBSA superintendent.
Mm-hmm. So there were different hierarchies or levels that you have gone through your career path in
That's
CBSA.
Right. Yeah. So even throughout right from the start, you start off as an immigration officer, then you become a senior immigration officer, and then with CBSA, there's different rankings of enforcement officer and so on and so forth, and then you get into sort of the management roles.
What do you do as an enforcement officer? Are you going to arrest for those people that are having deportation orders, or?
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much.
You were one of them.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Are you going to arrest me after this?
if you're illegal, well, not anymore. As I mentioned earlier, I'm retired now after 32 years. Retired almost 2 years ago, and now as a private citizen, obviously that's not something that I do anymore.
So tell me something. Is there any particular trainings that these officers are going through? Like, are they being trained, or what sort of trainings do they have? Are they being exposed to IRPA, Immigration Refugee Protection Act, or IRPR, Immigration Refugee Protection Regulations, or what kind of trainings?
So it's a very intensive training program that the officers go through. Of course, a lot of the criteria has changed over the years. When I first started, you went through training courses, and you learned about the Immigration Act. When I started, then to the IRPA, Immigration Refugee Protection Act, and regulations. Officers do get rigorous training in all these.
Is it?
Yes, throughout their training, and the training is quite involved and thorough, and it continues on. If I can take the liberty to say, even with me having over 3 decades of service, I was still learning to the last day.
Wow.
At the day of my retirement, you're still learning new things, and you're always trying to, improve on your knowledge and improve on your experience. So, just as a disclaimer to your viewers, I just want to put that out there that I'm here in my private capacity. In no way what I'm saying represents the view of the government or the departments that we're talking about. These are based on my own personal experiences,
of course,
and things based on best practices that I've learned over the
Absolutely.
years. Right.
Absolutely.
So if you're dealing with any government departments or anything like that, my recommendation will always be seek out independent legal advice and make sure you're talking to a professional for any legal matters that you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So from one of the people I heard once that depending on how good you are at your job in CBSA, they can station you at different offices. If you are a good one, you are going to be at Niagara Falls. If you are not a very good one, you are going to be sent probably to, what was the name of the border down the Winnipeg in Manitoba? What was that called? I don't remember the name.
I wouldn't put too much weight on that
statement.
No. CBSA is a very progressive organization. My personal experience has been that it respects people's values and people's experience. One thing to remember with the government, a lot of the promotions and the positions they come up are all merit-based. They are based on self-identification. If you're happy where you are, you can continue working there. Some people don't want promotions. Some people don't want to move, based on their personal circumstances. You are welcome to continue working where you are. Of course, there's, the employer always reserves the right to
choose or choose
to distribute their resources as they see fit based on their operations. But in most instances, it's not based on your aptitude, or it's not based on, that, I don't like you, so I'm going to ship you out somewhere else. That's not how the government works, and that's not how these departments work. Because these are, people have recourses, people have, way to challenge those if that is the case. So yeah,
if they feel that it's not fair,
yeah, definitely. So and from my experience, that's never been the case.
Wow.
I haven't come across.
Good to hear that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about that the training programs are so intense, and it was interesting for me that you mentioned. I don't know if you are being humble or this is really the case that. Until the very last day you were learning.
Yes.
Is that the attitude that every one of the officers is having, or?
Different people have different attitudes, by all means. Some people have a different, some people are just happy doing what they're doing. They're content in what they're doing at the moment. From my perspective, I was always the type that I always wanted to learn more. To learn more and keep learning more and do different things.
Right.
That's why throughout my career, I took it upon myself to try out different positions within the department.
Wow.
Just seek out opportunities wherever I could to sort of broaden my horizons. It comes down to your own aptitude. But again, there's continuous learning. There's continuous training that goes on throughout the career of a border services officer. There are certain benchmarks that they have to meet on annual basis, on recurring basis, as new policies and as new guidelines are put out by the departments. If there's new rules and regulations that come in, officers get that training. So there's continued training always going on, even as a very tenured officer. You're constantly being provided that support and knowledge and to stay ahead of the curve.
It's really good to hear that from someone who has been in CBSA for quite a while. That's kind of, I would say, promising for people's hearing that the person who is sitting on the other side of the desk is not someone who is naive or he doesn't know what's he doing.
No, not at all. The officers aren't put on the front lines until they're competent to address most of the situations. And depending on where you are in a large metropolitan area, or if you're arriving at Toronto Pearson Airport, there's hundreds of officers. So if there is a new officer, if there's a training officer, they have support of the officers who've been there a long time. So if there's something they don't understand, or it's a new circumstance that's been provided to them, they have the option of seeking out assistance.
Got it.
They have senior immigration officers, they have their superintendents there who are ready to guide them, to mentor them. And the whole process is designed that way. The training programs are designed that way, that new officers shadow experienced officers initially to learn, how it is to deal with people, how it is to
So it's not the case that there is a newbie out of the, let's say, university or whatever, just tell them, okay, you're on your own, you're done with the training, go ahead and do and crack on whatever of the person who is coming to Canada.
No, not at all. Not at all. So there are checks and balances.
Okay.
And new officers are encouraged to seek out, help where they're unsure or inexperienced.
Got it. So tell me something. I'm sure during the 32 years of your services, you have encountered many, like tens of thousands of different cases. And I'm sure among them, you can have maybe challenging cases or sometimes funny or interesting cases.
Yes.
Do you have some stories to share with us?
There are many. So the cases range from, just the very benign cases, very day-to-day routine cases to very complex cases. So over the years, obviously, you encounter all these cases, and over your careers, you're dealing with hundreds and thousands of people, especially the type of jobs that I was in. There are complex cases which take days to complete. Because of the nature of the case itself, there could be cases related to international criminality where you're dealing with, law enforcement agencies from international law enforcement agencies. You're waiting, you've identified somebody who's inadmissible to Canada because they've got a criminal record elsewhere. But for you to be able to, move the process forward, you have to await those reports to arrive from other countries. And
for instance, from US, you have
from
the
US,
from Australia, or
Australia, from UK, from France.
Have you had a case like that?
Many cases like
wow.
that. Yeah. So those those can be a little complex. Those.
What did you do at that time? You got to pick up the phone saying that, hey, is that the Sydney's police? I'm calling from UCBSA Canada.
Yes, sometimes. Yes, we do that. Sometimes it's a matter of what kind of agreements you have with foreign governments for information exchange. Sometimes there are strict protocols on how to go through it. So those are all part and parcel of your training and how you approach those cases.
What was the toughest case that you want to share with us? This story. Do you want to share one without naming the individual?
No, of course, yeah. There are cases which can be complex, but sometimes on the face of it can be very complex. But on the other case, because of the relationships you formed and your working relationship, your professional relationships, how you manage those cases. Of course, I can't, as you can well appreciate, can't go to any specifics of a particular case, and to identify any individuals. But yeah, one of the cases that comes to mind, which was multi-jurisdictional and multi-law enforcement, people that were involved, where we had identified, we had gotten information, from foreign law enforcement agencies that this particular person who's involved in, abuse of children and so on and so forth was possibly traveling to Canada. So there's outstanding warrants for this individual, and I happened to be on duty that day, and then I got the call from one of our border crossings that, hey, we've got this individual here. How do you want to deal with it? Right? And because the initial call had come through me, and I had disseminated the information across all the Canadian borders, that be on the lookout for this particular individual, that we anticipate he will be trying to enter Canada.
Wow.
And he's a fugitive from the other law enforcement agencies.
Wow.
So when that individual did appear at a border crossing.
Where was the border? Do you want to say?
It was in Ontario. Let's put it that
Ontario?
way. It was in Ontario.
Okay.
And it was a land border crossing, so I can say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a call that, Sanjeev, we've identified your individual. He's here.
Wow.
How do you want to deal with it? So, yeah, because it happened so quickly, even though a very complex case, I had all the information that I needed in order to reach out to the original law enforcement agencies that had contacted our office to say that this person we think is going to try to enter Canada illegally. So I was able to reach them, and it sort of started.
He was trying to enter Canada illegally.
Well, because he's a foreign criminal, so he's not able.
He couldn't enter from the border, and he knew
that he would be stopped. Right.
Got it.
Okay, so he's trying whatever means to enter Canada, and so the process starts, and then they were able to go to the border and apprehend him. We were able to turn him back, and then he was apprehended in very, very quick time. So a very complex case on the face of it, but again a very good resolution.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for the services that you guys are providing and trying to make our country safe and secure.
Yes.
This is kind of the best genuine statement that I can put forth. Is thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that you guys are doing your utmost to just make this country safe and secure.
Exactly.
This is invaluable for us.
Yes.
And I wish that every passenger that arrives in Canada can understand that the person who is standing on the other side of the desk is not necessarily their enemies. They're just trying to do their job according to what they have learned, right?
Exactly. I mean, that should never be the case. I mean, definitely, if you're entering Canada, we are there to serve you. We're there to protect the Canadian public, and so definitely. And
do the officer know that the passenger has been traveling in the past sometimes 40, 60 hours? So probably could be possible that not all of their answers could be correct because they are tired. They have been traveling like for 48 hours, sometimes even more, as you were mentioning before this.
Yeah.
So is that like something that they know about this, or they don't care?
They know about it. Definitely, when the passenger arrives in front of them, they have access to the person's itinerary. They can ask the questions, where are you coming from, and so on and so forth. Do officers take that into consideration? Yes, for the most part, but don't forget, officers are also there to do their job.
Right.
So they need specific information from the traveler before they can allow that person to come in.
Got it.
So the fact that you're tired and you're unable to answer the questions may actually put you at a disadvantage. So, my recommendation is, you be honest, you be truthful. If it takes you a little longer to answer the question, that's fine. But trying to evade the questions might raise flags, because that can be seen as, okay, you're trying to hide something. And then the officer will get into, that line of questioning to elicit the information that the officer needs to make that judgment. Are you the person that should be allowed into Canada?
Right.
And that's essentially the job of the officer at that point, that, am I making the right decision by letting this person in?
Right.
Is this person going to pose any kind of risk or threat to the Canadian public or otherwise? And is this person eligible, and is this person admissible to come to Canada?
Which is a fair statement.
Yeah.
It's a very fair statement to make, because if that person is inadmissible due to criminality, the first person who is going to be in jeopardy is the officer's daughter or children, or myself, or anybody else in the community. So the officers are doing their utmost to make everyone safe and secure.
Everyone safe and secure, and that's part of it. Of course, there is the facilitation side of things as well. We welcome new immigrants on a daily basis. We welcome people with families and children.
How many immigrants have you welcomed after flagpoling, saying that I'm PR now? Have you flagpoled them?
I wouldn't have a number, but it's probably in the hundreds and thousands. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
More than 100,000
thousands of people. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you land someone?
Oh, it's a great honor. It's a great honor. Yeah. For me.
Do you really feel happy for them?
I do. Especially when they're traveling with kids, you see a young family coming to Canada and trying to make Canada their home. It really makes me proud.
Have you got emotional anytime?
You know what? You try to keep the emotions to yourself in this line of work, because you have to maintain that sort of that professionalism. So there are circumstances, you're genuinely happy, but it's not that you're going to get up and start hugging these people, but you maintain that sort of professional distance, and your profession, you do your job professionally. There's nothing wrong with telling these people, hi, welcome to Canada, best of luck in your future, and so on and so forth. You welcome them with a smile, and you make them feel welcome. You answer their questions if they have any questions and queries. So that's how you maintain that, but you don't maybe not overtly show your emotions, to because you do have to maintain that professionalism in doing your job.
Interesting. And I'm now going to ask another question. Maybe you don't like this question. Have you encountered any funniest story with any of the passengers that you wanted to laugh out loud? Let's say saying that this is really funny. Like someone trying to get with her kangaroo, or
well, not kangaroo, but I mean, there are people who try to bring in all kinds of things to Canada. I don't really know if they're funny in that regard.
What was the strangest thing that somebody has tried to?
It would have to be certain live exotic animals, animals that are restricted. We had this individual from Asian country, South Asian country, trying to bring in these protected turtles, into Canada. So,
wow, and it was live.
They were live, yeah, but and these are restricted. They're protected animals, and you can't transport them. So things like that people do try to smuggle, and whether it's cultural, whether it's for financial gain, or who knows what the motivation is behind it, but those are the type of people that do end up getting stopped, and then they face those consequences of fines and so on and so forth. But in terms of funny story, getting back to one thing that kind of just jumped out at me was early on in my career, working at Pearson Airport. In the middle of winter, we had these people coming from South America, and we were going through a bit of sort of a wave of people coming and claiming refugee status in Canada at the time, and when they first come in, they're always constantly trying to say that they're not claiming refugee status. Their idea is to get in somehow and then claim refugee status later on. They just want to bypass the border officer. And so the funny story was, I'm coming just to Canada for a visit. No previous travel history whatsoever anywhere in the world. Just dressed in very summery clothes. Coming from South America in the middle of winter to Canada, doesn't have any winter clothing. Okay, you're coming here as a tourist. What do you want to do? Oh, I want to experience winter. For the first time, and I'm really fascinated with winter. But you could tell he's totally not prepared, and we know that he would be later on claiming refugee status at that point. So sure enough, one of my colleagues said, "Oh, you want to experience winter? Come with me." So he goes and opens the side door to the office, and there's wind blowing and snow blowing. He goes, "Here's your taste of winter. What do you think about this now?" So sure enough, he comes back, and then he ended up saying, "Yeah, no, I want to be a refugee in Canada."
Oh, he declared refugee?
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, so that was a bit of a funny take on, to make a serious situation a little funny, and just everyone got a little bit of a laugh out of it, that he maintained that he wanted to experience winter
in Canada,
and winter in Canada
with a shirt and short sleeves.
exactly. So that was a bit of a funny story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the strangest thing that somebody wanted to smuggle, you said, this live animals.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, there's again, it's there's people try to smuggle all kinds of things into Canada constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You talked about the fines. Tell us about. Of course, as you mentioned, that this is already disclaimed that any topics that we are talking about is not binding for you or me here. If someone wants or has happened to try to smuggle something from very limited to the, like, I know there's a spectrum. What kind of fines they are going to be exposed to?
It's difficult to say. So it all depends on what the commodity is, what the item is. Certain items, obviously prohibited items, restricted items. There might be even criminal charges related to it. So it's not only a monetary fine. It could end up in a criminal charge depending on what you're trying to bring in. If it's narcotics and so on and so forth. So it's a wide range of things that can happen when you try to circumvent the regulations, from a warning to a monetary fine to administrative charges to criminal charges. So
Even prison.
Even prison, yes.
No.
Yeah.
And the minimum charge is how much?
There, like I said, it would
could
depend.
be anything.
It depends on what the item is and how egregious the offense was. Yeah.
I see. Tell us about any kind of technology that is helping the officers. Do you guys happen to use technology, or as like mentioned in some articles, government cannot use any kind of technology that infringes people's privacy? Is one side, or you guys are just only relying on the documents that you have and the public sources?
No, definitely technology is used in helping officers do their job. Of course, I'm not at liberty to say what all technologies are being used, but we're all familiar with X-ray machines and those ion machines which detect if you've got any residues of any chemicals of any explosives on you. We all experience that going through airport security. So those type of machines are also used by CBSA to examine travelers' baggage. And
my friend 5 years ago was traveling to Europe, and when he got back to Canada, the officer had told him, do you have anything in your baggage? Of course she didn't, because she was a PhD student at the University of Manitoba, and the officer had asked her, do you have anything like special in your luggage? And she had said no. And the officer had shown her in the screen saying that, is this your luggage?
Okay.
Without even taking out her luggage, they could identify the luggage saying that this is yours. And she had said, yes. How do you know? Is this really happening? They're tracking every luggage. They have this capacity.
So the airlines track the baggage, right? So when you check in your baggage, the airlines put a tag on it, and it has a tracking number on it. So it's the same technology, right? So they can identify which baggage belongs to which passenger.
Wow. And they are monitoring all of this.
We don't know to what extent, but yes, if they wish to examine a particular baggage, they can examine a particular baggage.
Yeah, sometimes I'm overwhelmed when I'm thinking about all these logistics and the operation going on in every single airport. How many people are working, in terms of airlines, airport, or border agencies, that they're working and trying to keep everything moving forward in a neat and organized manner, so no one is at fault or nothing is being mistaken, because a simple mistake is a chaos.
Yeah. So it's a very fine-tuned machine. The whole operation. There's a lot of different departments. There's a lot of different personnel that are involved in making sure that travelers have a seamless experience, so that the airlines, the airport authority, all the other departments that work in conjunction, hand in hand, to make sure that
what is the most difficult part of your job back in the day, if you wanted to do, or being stationed or assigned a task? What was the one task that you would have said, oh my gosh, I hate this job?
Luckily for me, it never came to that.
Really?
Yeah, I enjoyed every moment of my working career.
Interesting.
Yeah, I loved
so
it.
you had not.
I mean, there are certain pressures. There are certain, depending on the type of job you're doing, there is certain in specific positions. There can be some limits that, okay, you have to look at so many cases in a day and so on and so forth. So, when I was posted as a visa officer overseas, there was an expectation that you dealt with so many cases on a particular day. You made so many decisions.
You were a visa officer?
Yes, I've worked as a visa officer at a number of different Canadian missions overseas.
Which countries, if you don't mind to share?
Yeah, I was posted in Beijing, I was posted in Hong Kong, and I was posted in New Delhi as a visa officer.
No way.
Yes.
You were one of the people that are writing that I'm not satisfied that your purpose of travel is consistent with your itinerary, etc., then. That is refusing all the...
Potentially, yes. Yes.
Was the Chinook back in the day working too?
No, during my term when we were doing visa processing overseas, the times that I was posted overseas, we were not using Chinook at that time.
Chinook at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any, let's say, hard part, or is there anything like difficult task that not that you hate it, but you don't want to be assigned? Like, what is the difficult part of this job? Let's say someone is going to apply for this job and has come to you and asking, Sanjeev, what kind of recommendations do you have? And what kind of difficult jobs in there? Like, how are you going to envision those difficult moments?
Again, it's a very subjective thing, right? It's how different people perceive what is difficult or not. Part of the, somebody who's new who wants to get into this profession, I think my recommendation and my advice to them would be think long and hard about it. There's a lot of demand on your time. There is definitely, it can be, difficult on the family because of there's the shift work involved, there's unusual working hours involved, there may be travel involved, there may be, so it can be a little hard on a family life. So depending on your personal circumstance, that can have an impact. If you're comfortable with that, by all means. And ultimately, it comes down to what you want to get out of this job for yourself, right? You have to look at why are you entering this profession? What are you trying to get out of it? For me, it was, being able to represent Canada at a global stage, at an international stage, which I was able to accomplish. So when I first started, that was my thing, that I wanted to get into foreign services. And, luckily, I was able to represent Canada as a Canadian diplomat at 5 different international locations, over my career. So I accomplished that goal. And so very happy with that. So it all boils down to where do you see yourself, what you want to get out of it.
How cool. Yeah. You have been stationed in 5 different countries, not in the capacity of visa officers, but also in the capacity of being like consulate general? Or?
No. So when you're a visa officer in a foreign country, you're a Canadian diplomat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's part of it. The other 2 postings that I've had were with CBSA as a CBSA liaison officer.
Got
so
it.
As a representative of CBSA
in other countries.
In other countries, dealing with the local law enforcement. So rather than looking on visa files, you're looking at CBSA files while you're overseas and working with the...
Dude, you are a bag of all these experiences.
Yeah, like I said, it all boils down to what you want to achieve out of your career, right?
Right.
Like I said early on, I'm one of those, consummate learners. I want to try different things. I want to try
Interesting.
Doing this podcast is a brand new experience for me. So when you invited me, this was, very, very timely. I said, hey, wow, another new experience for me to undertake.
For sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what kind of advice do you have for someone who is like having the ticket now and trying to board? If they're students, if they're having a work permit, or if they're coming here as a PR or a tourist, what kind of advices would you provide?
So the best advice I can give you is to be well prepared.
And what that preparation means?
That preparation means, depending on how you're entering Canada, what type of documentation you hold. The information is publicly available with internet these days. It's very easy for you to just Google a document checklist for a work permit. So if you're entering Canada on a work permit, make sure you follow that document checklist, which is put out by IRCC to say, do I have all these documentation ready with me? So when the Border Services officer asks me questions before letting me enter Canada, I'm ready to produce that documentation. I'm ready to produce that information. How you went through the application process, they want to make sure that you're the rightful holder of the documentation, right? So they might ask you questions related to that. So ultimately, being prepared, being organized really helps, and being forthcoming with the information when the officer asks you that question, because officers just trying to assess based on, the requirements that, hey, should this person be allowed into Canada? And that's the ultimate goal.
Got it. And it's interesting that no matter if you're a student or a worker or a PR, kind of the advice is mutually.
Yeah, it's across the board. Like I said, just being prepared, just being ready, available with that information.
And the officer has all the right to not allow a person for any reason at the border of entry, right?
No, that's not the case. No? The officer has to be satisfied that you're the right person who should be allowed in. So it's not that the officer can arbitrarily refuse you entry. They have to have grounds for refusal.
So how a visitor, study permit holder, not study permit holder, a study student or a worker or a PR, because we know that before they land, they are not still a Canadian, but can they have access to legal counselor if they have or if they are exposed to any problem with CBSA at the port of entry?
At the port of entry, you do not have right of counsel. Okay, so because you're still considered under examination at that point. Okay, but the officers will allow most people to allow them the courtesy to reach out if there's family members, depending on what the situation is again, right? But at the port of entry, you essentially are being examined to see whether you should be allowed into the country.
And if officer reasonably concludes that this person is not a genuine, let's say, tourist or study permit holder or work permit holder, that officer can deport that person right off the, let's say, port of entry without giving them the right to legal counsel.
No, not necessarily. No. So it depends on what the charge is. Certain offenses allow the officer to issue a removal order at the port of entry. Others not so. So there are a couple of options available. One is, the person always has the option to withdraw their application to enter Canada. Say, I want to voluntarily go back to my own country. You're telling me that I'm inadmissible. Okay, I don't want to come in anymore. I wish to withdraw my application. That is option available to the office, to the individual. If the person insists that no, they should be allowed in, then the officer, if they have reasonable grounds, they can write an enforcement report and send it for admissibility hearing, where an adjudicator decides whether this person should be allowed in or be removed from Canada at that point.
Got it. Which goes to the IRB.
Which goes to the IRB, yeah.
Okay. So if the first scenario happens, if the person withdraws, inadmissibility has not kicked in. Like if the officer says to the individual applying to enter to Canada, saying that for this reason I'm not letting you in, the person can say, okay, I'm withdrawing.
Yes.
And that inadmissibility or misrepresentation or whatever it is not holding up. It just goes away.
It doesn't go away. It goes away in the essence. You mentioned misrepresentation. Now, misrepresentation is a serious offense. So the officer may not allow you to withdraw at that point. Okay.
But what if they withdraw? They allow the person to withdraw.
If they allow the person to withdraw, yes, that there is no inadmissibility at that point.
And that inadmissibility thing has been taken care, not taken care of, but has been dealt with.
Has been dealt with, but the issue remains that on a subsequent trip to Canada, the passenger or the traveler should be aware that they were refused admission at one time in Canada.
Got it.
Right? So they have to be mindful of that in any future dealings with the border services or with Immigration Canada.
And you mentioned something about misrepresentation. That's a serious offense. So in that sense, you were saying that not all of the officers are allowing someone with misrepresenting finding to withdraw. They probably will hang on with that person saying that go to IRB because you are inadmissible.
Possible. That's possible.
It's positively.
It's possible. Yeah, it's plausible that's one of the outcomes that may happen. Yes.
Right. Yeah, the misrepresentation is something that is taken like super serious,
Very
and
serious.
I'm happy about this. That is just
Yes.
just making people to be honest with Canadian governments.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about looking back. Probably you will be a CBSA officer again if you go back to 22nd years old.
No regrets. Let's put it that way. Like I said, I was able to accomplish a lot of my personal goals through this, so really thankful for that. Definitely no regrets. I enjoyed every moment of it. Beautiful colleagues, wonderful colleagues that I got to work with, got to, travel the globe, represent Canada, and as a immigrant child myself, coming to a country and then representing Canada as a Canadian diplomat in your birth country, India, where I was born. So that was a great honor. So that was, so I think so that was really, really fulfilling. Yeah. So would I do it again? I don't know. But yes, I definitely do not have.
Did you move to Canada with your parents?
That's right.
Are they in Toronto now? Or?
No, my parents are no longer here with us, but yeah, they were.
Oh, I'm sorry for that.
We did move
You should be
together as a
missing
family.
You should be missing them.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Do you have family back in India? Or?
The extended family.
Extended family.
Extended family, yes.
Yeah. Do you travel there often?
Yes, at least once a year.
Once a year?
At least once a year, if not more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a traveler, so I love traveling.
Traveling.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how is the life after being retired?
After being retired, yes, wonderful. It's been good. I've never been busier. Sometimes I joke with my family and friends that, hey, sometimes I miss my cushy government job, but not so. But because I've never been busier, I'm quite busy. I stay active quite a bit. Just like yourself, Hushang, we did our course together, the graduate diploma in immigration and citizenship law. So I went and got my RCIC license. So I'm a practicing immigration consultant now, with the view of just helping deserving people, benefit from my knowledge and experience over the years, and help deserving people access Canada as best I can. It's definitely, I'm very selective in the people that I deal with. I value my time now. Like I mentioned, it can be a little difficult going through this career on your family life because of all the changes that happen throughout your career. So I'm enjoying that time with the family, and I value that time very, very much now. So I just want to stay just busy enough to keep myself occupied and the mind active and the brain active, while helping people, but also enjoy my time with the family.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I would say, if I wanted to immigrate to Canada one more time, definitely I would have hired Sengjiv as my representative, because with all due care, because
Thank you.
You're the person who has these insights and experience, and it's really valuable for your potential future clients that are using your services. It's just not that everyone has this experience, like deep understanding about what's going on in the departments. Not that you're going to misuse them, but at least you have this understanding about what sort of concerns these visa officers could potentially have, and you can just address them with your clients.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Hushang. No, I really appreciate that. And I believe so deep in my heart that I am uniquely situated to help people because I've seen both sides. I've seen, from a visa officer perspective, selecting deserving immigrants to come to Canada as permanent residents. And in my role in enforcement, I've seen where people go wrong once they're in Canada, what happens. And so I'm kind of uniquely positioned in that way to make the right choice and say, okay, is this the right person, a right fit for Canada? Because I've seen the other side where, I'm in a position of removing people from Canada who've been ordered deported or under removal order and sending them back to their own countries. And so it gives me a good perspective on what makes a good immigrant, because I've seen both sides of the coin.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll get back to this, but before I'm going to dig further in this, but probably at the time that you were stationed at CBSA, you have seen people that are seeking safety or they're asylum seekers. Mm-hmm. What's your first impression when someone says, I'm seeking safety and security based on the Refugee Protection Act?
When you're working, like I said, you have to maintain that professionalism, right? Mm-hmm. So your main thing is, okay, this person, they've got a right to claim asylum, they've got a right to claim refugee status. So the main focus is not to be judgmental, not to be, and that's where the professionalism comes in, and most of the officers deal with it in that way. Okay, you're claiming, so let's get the process started. Because it can be a lengthy process to go through your asylum claim. So the effort is to get the process started as quickly as possible. Make sure the individual who's claiming refugee status are afforded all their rights, all their whatever they are required to do. Make sure they understand the proceedings. So if they don't understand a particular issue, make sure there's a interpreter available to translate in their own language. So make sure they're understanding the proceedings. So you are basically there to facilitate the individual, because you're not the decision maker at that point. Right. As an officer, you don't get to make the decision that you're a refugee or you're not. Mm-hmm. You are there to facilitate that process, and that's the approach you take.
Got it. So if the officer is asking the asylum seeker, saying that, do you have a place to stay? It doesn't mean that you are offending them. It means that you are trying to make sure that convenience is provided to that person. The person is safe, secure, and is not going to stay in the streets.
So part of the reason is also trying to determine if they've got family and friends in Canada who might be able to assist them, who might be able to look after them.
Right.
If not, then we can provide them resources. Whether it's Red Cross or shelters where they can go and seek that accommodation and so on and so forth.
Right.
So that is part of the question. That do you have a place to stay? And of course, we also want to make sure that we have an address on file for these individuals, because, like I mentioned, the process itself can be long. So there is correspondence that's going to exchange between the government departments and the individual, and they need to be notified of their upcoming hearings. They need to be notified about a certain requirement. So there has to be a way for the government to get in contact with these individuals.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah.
So I can get that. And my next question is now back into the point that you were making about this spectrum of the people that you have seen was kind of touching me here, saying I can feel like how an immigrant, or could be originally could be an immigrant or not, of course, but because we are talking about immigrants in here, then you have seen people from their home country applying to come to Canada, and at the same, sometimes seeing the same kind of immigrants here being enforced because they have been convicted or they have done something that now they are going to be deported.
That's right.
And that's kind of strange for me, because I kind of can. Maybe that's because I'm not a CBCA officer, and I don't want to be a CBCA officer. But tell me a bit about that part. When you're enforcing someone, you're just trying again to control your emotion, and you're not feeling regretful.
No, you don't feel regretful. It's you're doing a job. You've been delegated a certain responsibility. You've been told that this is a job that needs to be done, and as long as you maintain that professionalism, make sure you're not abusing your authority in any way, make sure you're not overstepping your bounds, then you're doing your job. You're doing it with integrity, with honesty, and you want to make sure over my career, I think I might have done upwards of more than 150 escorted removals overseas, where we are actually taking people who are under removal order from Canada, escorting them physically outside the country to their home country. And if you're doing your job well, I'd say 99%, 95% of the time, when we drop the individual in their country of origin or where they're being deported to, they turn around and shake your hand and say, thanks for looking after me. So, it's how you do your job. I think that what comes down to it.
Have you encountered a situation when somebody is using a fake passport?
Oh yes, yeah, all the time. Yes, yeah, that happens very.
Is it like that much?
No, it happens frequently. Yes, yeah, it happens.
And they say it, or you just recognize it?
So all border officers are trained in document detection and document fraud, and trying to detect. So they get document examination training.
Okay.
All border services officers get document as part of their training.
So when they're looking at my passport, they're not just faking that they know. They actually know something.
They know. They're looking for the security features. They know how to read security features. They need to know, where the most common places are where people try to forge passports, or they could be using a genuine passport, but it doesn't belong to them. They could be an imposter. I'm using Hushang's passport to, I grow my beard and I say, I show up at the border saying I'm Hushang. We wear the same eyeglasses and try to pass myself off as Hushang. It's a genuine passport. So if you're looking at the document alone, it's a genuine passport. There's no deviation from security features, but you just don't rely on that. It's a combination of your examination, your interview skills. You are making sure that the person who's handing you the document is the rightful holder of that document.
Got it.
Yeah.
Why is Canada so strict about the items people can bring in?
I'm not sure whether strict is the right word. Definitely, again, it all boils down to the protection of Canadian public, Canadian environment. So these regulations are decided in conjunction with other government departments, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and so on and so forth. So these are they could be trade issues, they could be health issues, they could be disease, plant disease, animal disease. So I think we leave that up to the experts to decipher why
the policymakers,
the policymakers, and the more experienced people in that particular field to decide how a particular item needs to be assigned.
Got it.
Yeah.
I remember once I was traveling back to Canada and I had these 2 bottles of vodka with myself, which is extra, one of them was extra. And the officer asked me, how many bottles do you have? And I said, I have 2. And he looked at me, because I was honest.
Yeah.
I was having 2.
Exactly.
And he said, you know that you were only able to bring 1, right? I said, yeah, but it was cheap. I just wanted to bring 2.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. Because you were honest.
Yeah.
It was done. He didn't care. As long as I disclosed it with him, and I was as you said, upfront with him saying that
right.
I'm bringing 2. He was okay with it as long as you can disclose with it.
Yeah. So circling back to our previous conversation a little while ago, we said what's the best advice? Yeah, being honest and being upfront is the best advice. When you're crossing the border, answer questions readily. Don't try to evade. Don't try to hide, because that can cause raise flags and you can find yourself. There is no restriction on bringing more than in this particular case, bottle of alcohol. If you're over your allowance, you tell them you're over your allowance. And if the officer deems appropriate, they will send you to pay extra duty on the extra. And then you're on your way, and there's no enforcement action. But if you try to hide and evade, that can lead to fines, and that can lead to any enforcement action. Right. So whatever you're bringing with you, be upfront. Say this is what we have. Even you said, why is Canada so restricted on so many items? Yeah, if you're bringing in food, if you're bringing in fruit, you just declare that yes, I do have food with me. I do have, and then leave it up to the officer to decide how they wish to deal with it. To deal with it. Yes.
Okay. Now, if we want, just before we finish, I just want to ask you, what do you think about the current trend in Canada's immigration policies? I know you're, as you mentioned, that you're practicing now immigration. Yes. You have your own clients, and I know the timing is a bit tough for immigration consultants. What do you think about all these immigration trends, and do you have any piece of advice for potential?
The advice I can say is, immigration policies will always remain in flux. Okay, they are a lot of times, as much as we like to think that they are forward-looking, but they can be a lot reactive as well. So, policies can change due to political reasons, due to economic reasons. So, depending on where we are, immigration policies will keep on changing. And as regulated consultants, I think it's our job to stay informed. So we can assist our clients appropriately and provide them the best guidance that's available to us. We don't control the policy. We try to understand the policy. We try to make sure we apply the policy correctly to the people that we're serving. So it will remain in flux. There's constant change in immigration policies. With the change of governments, bring new policies. With the change in economic conditions, can bring in new policies. And like I said, as professionals, we have to stay ahead of the game and understand those policies for ourselves.
Nice. Okay, with this, we are going to wrap up our session in here. Thank you very much for coming and joining us in this episode of North of 60. It was very precious for me, and I'm sure that this is the case for all of our audiences here. Learning from your experiences and being exposed and learning from your career path. I'm sure that a lot of lessons have been learned, a lot of take-ons actually have been noted in here for our audiences, and including myself. I learned a lot from you. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming in this session, Sanjeev.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Hushang. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. خب اینم از این قسمت برنامه ما و مهمون ما. امیدواریم که تا اینجای برنامه لذت برده باشید. میرسیم به قسمت پرونده ویژه که هر هفته ما یک پرونده ای رو از پرونده های دادگاه های کانادا بررسی میکنیم یا در این قسمت به حقوق اداری کانادا خواهیم پرداخت. خوش اومدی شیوا جان.
متشکرم، ممنون، مرسی. سلام به شما و سلام به بیننده های عزیزتون. خیلی متشکرم که منو توی این قسمت دوباره دعوت کردید. خب مطابق هر سری قراره
خیلی ممنون که دعوت ما رو قبول میکنی هر دفعه.
خواهش میکنم، ممنون، مرسی، باعث افتخار بود. اول اینکه بگم مهمونتون چقدر خوب بود و چقدر از صحبتش لذت بردم. آره خیلی زیاد. من همیشه دلم میخواستش که یک آفیسر رو ببینم و این جمله خیلی توی ذهنم بود که thank you for your services. این خیلی دوست داشتم بگم و خب برام یه شرایطی ایجاد شد که گفتم.
به سنجیو.
بله.
موقعی که داشت میرفت.
بله.
باریکلا.
و همین دیگه. خیلی متشکرم، مرسی و مهمون خیلی خوبی داشتید، خیلی لذت بردیم.
از چی خوشت اومد؟
ببینید به هر حال برای ماها به عنوان مهاجر اینکه آفیسر مرزبانی به هر حال یک فردی هستش که استرس داریم وقتی می‌خوایم باهاش روبرو بشیم، ولی اینکه بدونیم که خب یه سری نکات هستش که میتونیم از این استرس جلوگیری کنیم و اینکه میبینیم خب به هر حال آدمای نایسی هستن، هیچ آدم پیچیده اون آدم ترسناکی که فکر می‌کنیم نیستن. خب شنیدن صحبتاشون یه کمی اوضاع آرومتر میکنه، یه کمی آشنا شدن باهاشون برام جذاب بود و در کل نکاتی هم که گفتن برام خیلی جالب توجه بود.
بسیار عالی. خب بریم سر بحث حقوق اداری. میدونم که جلسه قبلی قسمتی از حقوق اداری رو با هم صحبت کردیم، قسمت اولش رو. این قسمت هم قسمت دوم حقوق اداری رو خواهیم رفت و از هفته بعد یا از قسمت بعد قراره که پرونده های
تیم حقوقی آتلانتیک رو که در اختیارمون قرار میدن با هم دیگه بررسی
کنیم. پس این جلسه دوم حقوق اداری هست. از هفته آینده یا از جلسه آینده ما پرونده های دادگاه رو به صورت اختصاصی با هم دیگه
بررسی میکنیم که خب به نظر خودم اون قسمت‌ها جذاب‌تر هم هستن.
آره میدونم حقوق اداری اصولا نظر خسته کننده هم هست.
البته حقوق
تو دانشگاه
اداری
ما می‌خوندیم همه خیلی خسته کننده بود بحث.
آره واقعا خب توی خود ایران هم حقوق اداری رو بچه‌ای که حقوق خوندن میدونن خیلی زیاد جالب توجه نیست به اندازه حالا بقیه قسمت‌های حقوق. اما به هر حال یه چیزی که اینجا اهمیت داره اینه که حقوق اداری توی کانادا اهمیتش خیلی زیاده و اینکه ما به عنوان مهاجر یا به عنوان شهروند و یا حتی به عنوان صاحب کسب و کار از این حقوق مطلع باشیم خیلی بهمون کمک میکنه. فرقش با بقیه جاها اینه چون که کانادا یک کشور دموکراتیکه و این کشور دموکراتیک باید مواظب باشیم که دولت خیلی زیاد از قدرتش سوء استفاده نکنه، چون سوء استفاده زیاد از قدرت وقتی که دولت از قدرتش سوء استفاده میکنه خب حق مردم خیلی تضعیف میشه. به همین دلیل حقوق اداری تضمین میکنه که دولت باید توی تصمیم گیری های خودش شفاف، منصفانه و پاسخگو باشه و خب توی این مسیر به گفتم صاحبان کسب و کار، مهاجران و حتی شهروندان خیلی زیاد کمک میکنه.
پس یعنی حقوق اداری برای ما مشخص میکنه یا مراقبت میکنه از شهروندا که حقوقشون توسط دولت تضییع نشه به طور کلی.
دقیقاً چون برخی از تصمیمات رو دولت میگیره. بعضی از تصمیماتی که توی زندگی ما تاثیرات خیلی زیاد و مستقیمی دارن دست برخی از نهادهای دولتی هستن. حالا اون نهادهای دولتی چی هستن؟ مثلا نهاد مهاجرت و اقامت دائم
که موضوع بحث ماست.
دقیقاً. مالیات و حقوق مالیاتی شهروندان و شرکت‌ها، بیمه بیکاری و مزایای اجتماعی، مجوزهای کسب و کار و همینطور مقررات مربوط به کار و کارگر. اینها رو نهادهای دولتی بررسی می‌کنن.
جالبه.
دقیقاً که اگر حقوق اداری نتونه یعنی روش نظارت نداشته باشه برای کسی که میخواد ازش استفاده کنه یه تضییع حق بزرگی میشه اگه یک وقتی از اختیاراتی که دارن سوء استفاده کنن.
بسیار عالی. خب
لازمه که بگم حقوق اداری چند تا اصل اساسی داره. اصل اولش اینه که اصل شفافیت و اطلاع رسانیه. یعنی اینکه میگه مقامات دولتی موظف هستن که درباره دلایلشون توضیح بدن، یعنی به اشخاص کامل مشخص کنن که ما این تصمیم رو به این دلیل گرفتیم. صرف اینکه بیاد بگه که خب حالا این تصمیم گرفته شده و دلیلی ارائه نده اصلا قابل قبول نیست. حالا فرض کنید که اداره مهاجرت کانادا یعنی IRCC تصمیم میگیره که درخواست ویزای کاری یک فرد رو رد کنه. خب باید دلیلش رو هم کتبی اعلام کنه. صرف این که بگه شما واجد این شرایط نیستید کافی نیست.
درسته.
مورد دوم اصل انصاف رویه‌ایه. خب این اصل خیلی اصل خوبی هست، یعنی که هر فرد باید که فرایند دادرسی منصفانه‌ای داشته باشه، یعنی توی فرایند دادرسیش از انصاف برخوردار باشه. یعنی دولت هر تصمیمی که میگیره باید توش اعتدال و عدالت رو رعایت کنه.
و هر کدوم از اینا اگر هر کدوم از این حقوق مثل برخورداری منصفانه از پروسه اجرایی نقض بشه میتونه به دادگاه مراجعه بکنه و بگه آقا مثلا حق من یا با من عادلانه برخورد نشده در رسیدگی به این پرونده.
دقیقاً حقوق اداری اینجا سر و کلش پیدا میشه و خب از حق افراد دفاع میکنه. دقیقاً. مورد سوم اصل حق اعتراض و تجدید نظره. خب به هر حال این حق همیشه برای افراد هستن. حالا توی قوانین کشور خودمون ایران هم بررسی کنیم، هر فرد به هر حال حق تجدید نظر رو داره. اینجا میتونه بگه که اوکی شما میتونید که به عنوان یک فرد درخواست تجدید نظر بدید، اما اگر اون نهاد درخواست تجدید نظر شما رو رد کرد، شما امکان این رو دارید که به دادگاه اداری مراجعه کنید و بگید که مثلا نه این درخواست غیر منصفانه دوباره رد شده.
درست. یعنی پس حالا ما که بحثمون در مورد پرونده های مهاجرتی هست میخوایم بریم به اون سمت که بگیم من اگر درخواستی داشتم برای اینکه پرونده ویزای توریستیم یا اقامت دائمم یا پرونده تحصیلیم ریجکت شده توسط آفیسر، میتونم حالا برم به دادگاهی و بگم که پرونده من رو یک قاضی نگاه بکنه و ببینه آیا نظر آفیسر منصفانه، منطقی و عادلانه هست یا نه.
دقیقاً. خب حالا اینجا یه سوال پیش میاد که یک فردی که همه این موارد، مثلا همون فردی که درخواستش ریجکت شده چطور میتونه اقدام کنه؟ میخواد بره یک دادگاه و بگه که خب در حق من انصاف رعایت نشده. اول از همه باید درخواست اطلاعات رسمی کنه یا همون نوت آفیسری که ما میگیم. باید بخواد که دلایل رد درخواستش رو بهش بگن و بعد از این میتونه درخواست بررسی مجدد بده و یعنی بخواد که مجددا پروندهش رو رسیدگی کنن که معمولا حالا توی پرونده هایی که براتون میاریم در مورد این موضوع هم مفصل توضیح میدیم. اگر مورد اول و مورد دوم اتفاق نیفته و جواب نگیره، اینجاش خیلی جالبه چون میتونه که پرونده رو توی دادگاه فدرال کانادا ثبت کنه، یعنی شکایتش رو به دادگاه فدرال کانادا ببره که این گزینه معمولاً برای پرونده های پیچیده مثل امور مهاجرتی، مالیاتی و یا اداری مورد استفاده قرار میگیره.
درست. بسیار عالی. پس در نتیجه ما داریم میگیم اگر یه پرونده ریجکت شد، فرد میتونه درخواست نوت آفیسر رو بده.
دقیقاً.
توی اصطلاح عامیانه خیلی الان مرسوم شده که متقاضیان میگن درخواست ریکانسیدریشن بزنیم. در اصل همون ترجیح نظریه که میخوایم از همون نهاد میخوایم که ریکانسیدریشن و ریکانسیدر بکنن درخواست ما رو. اگه به نتیجه نرسید، فرد میتونه بره به در واقع دادگاه مراجعه بکنه و بگه که روند پروسه رسیدگی به پرونده من حالا یا عادلانه نبوده یا منطقی نبوده یا مطابق ضوابطش نبوده. خب بریم جلو ببینیم دیگه چی.
حالا اگه اجازه بدید اینو هم بگم که حقوق اداری تضمین کننده اینه که تصمیمات دولتی باید منصفانه، قانونی و شفاف باشن. پس اگر احساس کردید که یک بار یک تصمیم اداری غیر منصفانه است، چندین راه برای اعتراض و بازبینی اون وجود داره و اینکه دولت کانادا باید در قبال تصمیماتی که میگیره پاسخگو باشه. اما این وظیفه ماست به عنوان شهروند یا به عنوان مهاجر که از حقوقمون دفاع کنیم، حقوقمون رو بدونیم و در قبالش بخوایم که دولت کانادا پاسخگو باشه. به هر حال کانادا دلیل انتخاب ما برای به عنوان مثلا کشوری که میخوایم مهاجرت کنیم به کانادا این بوده که خب کانادا کشور خوبی هستش، از حق و حقوق زیادی برخوردار باشیم، از حقوقی بیشتر از آزادی. حالا گاهی اوقات برای ما مطرحه که نیازهای اولیه رو در نظر میگیریم، اما بیشتر که زندگی میکنی توی کانادا به حقوق دیگت هم اهمیت میدی و برات بزرگ میشن و چقدر خوبه که وقتی یک دولت در قبال تصمیماتش پاسخگو هست ما ازش چیزی بخوایم و از حقمون دفاع کنیم.
خیلی عالی.
آره.
توی پروسه رسیدگی به پرونده ها اگر کسی در دادگاه فدرال به نتیجه نرسه، مشروط به ضوابط و شرایطی میتونه به دادگاه در واقع تجدید نظر یا فدرال کورت آف اپیل و در نهایت هم به سوپریم کورت کانادا مراجعه بکنه. درسته؟ یعنی میتونه رأی همون قاضی رو هم داره دوباره به چالش بکشه.
دقیقاً.
بسیار عالی. خیلی هم خوب و جالب. نکته دیگه هست که بخوای برامون بگی؟
آره حتما. من یک پیشنهادی دارم واسه بیننده هاتون، این که اگر در احساس کردن که در این مواردی که من گفتم در حقشون بی انصافی شده یا پروندهشون درست بررسی نشده، حتما اسناد و مدارک خودشون رو نگه دارن و سندهاشون رو نگه دارن و از بین نبرن، مثلا ناامید نشن و بگن که خب حالا مشکلی نیست. بعد حتما اعتراضشون رو رسمی ثبت کنن و اگه اون تصمیم اداری تاثیر بزرگی توی وضعیت مالی یا مهاجرتی یا شغلیشون داره، حتما از یک مشاور کمک بگیرن.
خیلی عالی. مرسی از تو و مرسی از حضورت. چیز دیگه هم هست که بخوای بگیم؟
نه، ولی خب خیلی دوست داریم که اگر افرادی که ما رو میبینن پرونده های مشابهی داشتن یا تجربه های مشابهی در این زمینه داشتن بهتون پیام بدن و ما بتونیم توی برنامه های بعدی به اونها پاسخ بدیم.
خیلی عالی.
خیلی متشکرم.
مرسی از وقتت. اینم از این قسمت از برنامه خودتون شمال 60. امیدوارم که از این قسمت از برنامه لذت برده باشید. اگه کسی رو میشناسید که داستان جالب و جذابی برای تعریف کردن داره یا حتی اگه خودتون برای شرکت در این برنامه علاقه‌مند هستید، حتما در قسمت کامنت ها برامون بنویسید تا باهاتون تماس بگیریم. همینطوری این برنامه رو هم علاوه بر کانال یوتیوب آتلانتیک 724 و اسپاتیفای میتونید از اپل پادکست، آمازون میوزیک و سایر پلتفرم‌هایی که در کپشن نوشته شده ببینید و بشنوید. خانم و آقایون، تا برنامه بعدی خدا نگهدار و یادتون نره که دنیا جای قشنگتریه وقتی هوای همو داریم.